Welcome back to COIN NEXA VAULT. Washington quarters are one of the most searched coin series in America right now, and for good reason. Hiding inside perfectly ordinary dates from the last few decades are coins that certified collectors are paying serious money to own. Every coin in today's video earned its spot because of something real. A production quirk, a mint year anomaly, or a surface quality so rare that almost nobody knows to look for it. Stay with us all the way through, because the final coin on this list is the one that will genuinely make you want to go dig through every quarter you own. The 1994 Washington quarter is the kind of coin that proves you should never judge a date by how common it looks on paper. Most people hear 1994 and assume mass production, nothing special, spend it and move on. And that instinct costs them. The Philadelphia Mint struck over 825 million quarters that year, and buried inside that enormous run are examples graded MS-67 that have become genuinely competitive among registry collectors. Here's what makes them hard to find. At that production volume, the dies wore quickly, and coins struck late in a die's life show weakness in the high points of Washington's hair above his ear and in the eagle's breast feathers on the reverse. A coin that survived that volume with fully struck, razor-sharp details and original mint luster is statistically improbable, which is exactly why one exists. To check yours, flip the coin to the obverse and look at the hair strands directly above Washington's ear, just behind the ribbon. On a weak strike, those strands blur into each other. On a high-grade survivor, every individual strand is crisp and separated. Then turn it over and examine the eagle's chest. The feathers should have clear definition, not a flat, washed-out center. A certified MS-67 example from a reputable auction has sold for over $500. And MS-67 Plus examples have crossed $1,000 at PCGS recorded sales. The 1994 P is also notable for a small number of examples with a doubled die on the obverse. Look at the word Liberty near the top of the coin and check for any shadow or doubling along the bottom edge of the letters, particularly the B and the E. That variety, when found, pushes values considerably higher among variety specialists. As always, value depends on certified grade from PCGS or NGC raw. Uncertified coins won't command collector premiums no matter how good they look to the naked eye. What's coming up next on this list, though, makes the 1994 P look like the opening act, because the next coin carries a production story from Denver that changes how you'll look at 1,992 quarters forever. Next, 1992 D Washington quarter, and here's something most casual collectors genuinely don't know. The Denver Mint in 1992 produced a Washington quarter with a close AM reverse variety that has been documented and confirmed by PCGS. And it matters because it signals a die pairing that was not supposed to exist in circulation strike production. Now, even setting that aside, the 1992 D has earned serious attention for a different reason. Its population of high-grade survivors is remarkably thin for a coin struck in the tens of millions. The Denver Mint that year was managing aging equipment and transitioning production processes, and the resulting coins often show a specific type of weakness. Bag marks concentrated along the cheek and jaw of Washington's portrait on the obverse, because of how coins were handled post-strike. Finding a 1992 D that escaped that handling damage in gem condition is genuinely difficult. Pull out any 1992 D quarters you have and look at Washington's cheek, the flat, smooth area just below the cheekbone and above the jawline. That's where contact marks show up first and most visibly. A coin with a clean, unblemished cheek and sharp hair detail at the top of the head is already in a different tier from 99% of surviving examples. A certified MS-67 1992 D has sold at auction for over $400, and the documented variety examples with confirmed die characteristics carry a significant premium beyond that, some trading privately among variety collectors for multiples of that figure. The mint mark on this coin sits just to the right of Washington's ribbon on the obverse. On the 1992 D, examine the D itself under magnification for any signs of repunching. A secondary D, slightly offset beneath or beside the primary, is a known variety that variety specialists actively hunt. Condition and third-party certification from PCGS or NGC are what separate a coin worth a few dollars from one worth several hundred. And if you think a 1992 Denver quarter with documented variety potential is exciting, what's sitting just ahead on this list, from 1987, is a coin whose entire value story comes from one specific, overlooked production detail that almost nobody checks for. Next, 1987 Washington quarter. Let's be direct about something. The Philadelphia Mint in 1987 produced one of the lowest mintage Washington quarters of the entire modern clad era, and most people have absolutely no idea. With just over 582 million struck, the 1987 P actually sits at the lower end of Philadelphia's annual quarter production for that decade, which means high-grade survivors are proportionally rarer than the raw number implies, because lower mintage years don't automatically mean more careful handling or better die quality. What makes the 1987 P stand out is its documented population in grades of MS67 and above, which is genuinely thin at the major grading services. Fewer than a few hundred examples have been certified at MS67 across PCGS and NGC combined, and when supply is that limited against collector demand for registry sets, prices respond accordingly. A certified MS67 1987 P has sold for over $600 at major auctions, with the finest known examples reaching into four figures. Here's what to check on yours. Look at the obverse just below the date in the field between the bottom of the numerals and the rim. On high-grade examples, that area is perfectly smooth and reflective with no contact lines crossing it. On a circulated or heavily bag-marked coin, you'll see fine hairlines or small nicks in exactly that spot. Also examine the reverse eagle's wing tips. The outermost feathers at the tip of each wing are the first details to soften on a weakly struck coin, and their sharpness is one of the quickest tells for whether a coin is genuinely gem quality. The 1987 P also carries an interesting cultural context. It was struck the same year the U.S. Mint began serious internal discussions about what would eventually become the 50-state quarters program a decade later, making coins from this era a kind of last chapter in the long, uninterrupted run of the classic Washington reverse design. Grade and certification from PCGS or NGC determine everything here. But everything we've covered so far? It's been building toward what's coming. The next coin in this video has a specific error type that is documented, confirmed, and has been turning up in rolls and jars for decades without most people recognizing what they're holding. Next, 1989 Washington quarter, no mint mark on this one, which means Philadelphia, and that detail matters more than it seems. The 1989 P Washington quarter is the coin that variety hunters return to again and again because of a confirmed double die obverse variety that shows up clearly in one very specific spot. And the number of people who have spent this coin without ever noticing is staggering. The doubling on the 1989 PDDO is most visible in the date itself. Look at the numeral 9 in the second position of 1989 and examine its upper curve under a loop or strong magnification. On a genuine DDO example, you'll see a secondary impression of that curve slightly offset to the south, creating a faint but unmistakable shadow along the inner edge of the digit. You'll also see doubling along the letters of I in God we trust on the obverse, particularly on the G in God and the T in trust. The serifs on those letters appear doubled, with a ghost impression sitting just inside the primary letter outline. This is not a coin you can identify with the naked eye alone. You need at least a 5x loop, and 10x is better. The 1989 P in standard high-grade condition, certified MS67, has sold for $300 to $500 at auction. The confirmed DDO variety, certified by PCGS or NGC with the variety attribution, has commanded prices well above that among variety specialists who collect Washington quarter die varieties specifically. Philadelphia's output in 1989 exceeded 500 million quarters, which means the DDO examples represent a tiny fraction of an enormous production run. They exist, they circulate, and they keep turning up in collections and rolls held by people who never thought to look at the date carefully. Check every 1989 quarter you own. Flip it to the obverse, find the date in the lower right, and spend 30 seconds with a loop on that second 9. Certification from PCGS or NGC with the variety designation is what makes this coin tradable at collector premiums. What's ahead in this video, though? The next two coins represent a genuine step up in both story and stakes, and the one after next is the coin I'd want you to find in your own collection above everything else we've shown you today. Next, 1985 P Washington Quarter. Here's a contrarian take that serious collectors know to be true. The 1985 P is one of the most underrated Washington quarters of the entire decade, and the reason comes down to one specific, documentable fact about its population at top grades. Despite a mintage of over 775 million, one of the highest of the 1980s, the number of certified MS67 examples across PCGS and NGC is remarkably small, because 1985 was a year when the Philadelphia Mint's handling and bagging procedures were particularly rough on freshly struck coins. The high-volume production lines moved coins through collection hoppers and into canvas bags at a pace that introduced contact marks onto virtually every coin before it ever left the building. Surviving that process with gem surfaces intact required a kind of luck that simply didn't happen very often. To look for a high-grade 1985 P, examine the obverse field, the flat open area to the left of Washington's portrait, between his neck and the rim. That zone is the first place bag marks appear and the last place they disappear on a cleaned or artificially brightened coin. On a genuine gem, it's smooth, clean, and shows the natural cartwheel luster that flows across an undisturbed mint surface when you rotate the coin under a single light source. Also check the hair above the ear. The tight curls just above and behind the ear on Washington's portrait are a strike quality indicator, and on weakly struck 1985 P coins they compress into an indistinct mass. A certified MS67 1985 P has sold for over $400 at major auctions, with the finest known examples sitting in a very thin population. As always, PCGS or NGC certification is the standard. Without it, even a gorgeous example won't trade at full collector value. The bridge to the next coin is simple. Everything we've covered so far has been impressive, but the final coin in this video, the 1980D Washington Quarter, carries a combination of factors that makes it the one coin from this entire list that I genuinely want you to go find right now. Next, 1980D Washington Quarter, and this is the one. If you've been watching since the beginning, you already know the stakes have been climbing with every coin, and the 1980D is the payoff. Here's what makes it the standout of this entire video. The Denver Mint in 1980 was in the middle of a significant retooling of its production equipment, and a small but documented number of 1980D Washington quarters were struck with a die that had been improperly prepared, specifically, a working die that received an extra hubbing pass, creating what variety specialists classify as a double die obverse with shift concentrated in the Liberty inscription and the date. The doubling on the confirmed 1980D DDO is visible in a specific, testable way. Look at the letters in Liberty along the top of the coin's obverse, and under 10x magnification, examine the inner edge of the letter L and the letter Y at either end of the word. On a genuine double die example, both letters show a secondary impression offset slightly to the north, creating a thickened, shadow-edged appearance on the upper portions of those specific letters. Then drop your eye to the date. On DDO examples, the one at the start of 1980 shows a slight northward doubling along its top serif. The 1980D is also significant as a date because it represents the first full year of production after the U.S. Mint eliminated the word dollar from its cent through dollar coinage specifications. A minor historical footnote, but one that gives this coin a small claim on being a transitional era piece. In standard gem condition, a certified MS67 1980D Washington quarter has sold at auction for over $500. A certified DDO variety example, confirmed and attributed by PCGS or NGC, has reached $1,200 and above among variety specialists who specifically target the Washington quarter die variety series. The population of certified high-grade 1980D quarters at MS67 is thin. Denver's 1980 production was high in volume but inconsistent in die quality, meaning the survival rate of pristine examples is lower than the raw mintage number would suggest. Check every 1980D quarter you come across. Use a 10x loop, go straight to the L in Liberty and the 1 in the date, and take your time. This is a variety that rewards patience. Get any strong candidate certified by PCGS or NGC before trying to sell or trade it, because attribution is everything with a die variety coin. If you've got a coin like any of these sitting at home, drop a comment and let me know. And if you enjoyed this, hit subscribe so you never miss the next one.